The Reconstruction of the South began in 1865 when the Union had won, which did grant some slaves their freedom, but unfortunately not every one of the slaves received that. Abraham Lincoln had been planning for the Reconstruction of the South. While the Civil War was going on and when Union soldiers had taken up big areas in the South, his plan was to bring the nation back together. The first thing he did was state a new constitution that would prohibit slavery. January 1865, the Congress had presented an amendment that would terminate slavery in the United States. Later on December 18, 1865, the Congress had confirmed the 13th Amendment on terminating slavery. Lincoln was able to free around 3 million slaves by doing this.
The Civil War had ended on April 9, 1865. Less than a week later, Abraham Lincoln was shot and killed, and Vice President Andrew Johnson had become the new president. He decided not to continue what Lincoln had decided and come up with his own decisions on what was going to happen. He decided that you would need a vow of loyalty to the nation before they could ever be allowed to enter the nation. What Johnson was seeing was that the blacks had never given up their right to govern themselves. While he was president, he had taken most of the land in the South and made it owned by the Union soldiers. Going on from that, you would still need to vow loyalty toward the Union and pay off the war debt. To conclude that, black code laws were enacted. The Black Code laws were a set of laws that restricted freedom towards slaves. In the beginning of 1866, the Congress had passed the Freedmen's Bureau and the Civil Rights Bill. This was helped to create an organization for charged people who assisted slaves. The second bill had given equality under the law if you were born in the United States as a U.S. citizen. Later on, Johnson had vetoed the laws, which caused a huge corruption in the Reconstruction process. This had affected the African Americans because they were still fighting to have their equal rights and their freedom. Later on in 1867, many Southern whites had turned to violence and the Ku Klux Klan had targeted white and black Republicans. Around 1867, an economic depression had plunged and most of the Southerns into poverty. Later on, the Democrats had won. Help led to the Compromise of 1876 that marked the end of the Reconstruction process.